Hello everyone, it's Deb Floros for the Ava Motherwell collection, and if you saw the unboxing of these lovelies, you'll know that I am super excited about all of this. This is a fruit salad on my work table, and we've got so many fun things to work with. Some fun leaves, we've got some plums, or I'm not really sure what this fruit is, but I really love it. We've got some metallic cherries. We've got so many fun things to work with. So what I did, I'm going to push these off to the side just for a little bit. I pulled out some things that I love from Ava that may be possibilities to go with all of these beads. So I've got these fun cube beads that are in a really lovely yellow. I've got these amazing big chonky beads. I don't know, that's just something I'm thinking about. Then I've got a couple of these very glowy beads. So I think these are contemporary from Ava, and I've got them in two different colors. I've got them in this kind of clear and this really luminescent kind of golden shade. And these are contemporary, and they are very much like a moon glow vintage bead. They're very beautiful. So these are a possibility. And then, I don't know, something says maybe one of these big beads might make it into the design. I'm not sure, but I love these big chonkers. I mean, they're huge. So I don't know. I've got the yellow vibe going over here. So these are some possibilities. And then I'll probably throw in some seed beads. And I've got some kind of clearish, whitish seed beads I'm thinking about to go with all of this to add kind of to the pop of the colors. So I'm going to set all of this aside, and I think I'm going to try pulling some of this together and see what we can come up with. I'm thinking a very dramatic statement necklace, but you never know. Maybe a few different things will come out of all of this amazing fruit salad goodness here. We'll see. I thought it might be fun to work with some purple amethyst soft flex. This is very complementary for all of the color that we've got going here. So it doesn't really matter what the color is, it just adds a little bit of something. And if you can see the wire through the beads, that's even more fun. So I'm choosing some purple amethyst to work with today and create this stringing dramatic fruit salad necklace. Okay, so I'm gonna pour these 11-0 white seed beads into a dish here. I think I want to go with dramatic all the way. So this stark white is going to look great as a spacer for a lot of what we're doing here. So I'm going to start creating by, I'm just going to pull the soft flex off of the spool, and I always just like to do a little bit of a trim of the end before I start, just because, just a little bit of a trim off there. And I think what I'm going to start with is this white bead. So these contemporary white beads are really, really cool, and they are very moon glow-ish. And I'm going to drop those. Ooh, sorry, that's noisier than I thought it would be. And I'm just going to pull those out and drop those in my dish. And I've got a second strand, which I'm probably going to use. So let me put those in the dish as well. So I think a white and a kind of clearish vibe and purple wire are really going to just make this a super fun and interesting project. So I'm going to start with those, and I might mix in some of these cubes as well. So I'm going to put those in a dish here. And we'll work with those. So those cube beads, they are Italian polyresin. Really a cool bead. Fun to work with. So I'm going to set all of those sort of off to the side here. And then I think what I'll do to get us started is I'm going to just do a few seed beads at the end. So like a trio of seed beads. And then we're going to add, and actually my seed beads go through this, darn it. Okay, so I think I need some metallic spacers. So I'm going to grab some of those. Okay, if you've ever been to a picnic where you might bring fruit salad, you might see ants. So I'm gonna pull out, I'm gonna use some daisy spacers. So if you've watched me for any length of time, followed me for any length of time, you probably know I love daisy spacers. They solve lots of design problems and design issues and also add a really nice touch of metallic. So I've got 3 seed beads, and then I'm gonna take a daisy spacer, and then I'm gonna grab, oops, where'd that guy go? He rolled right back. I'm gonna grab one of these glowy beads. So we're gonna use some of these throughout the project. I think that will help us keep our spacers in order and also help us to have some nice metallic accents. So those little metallic spacers around that glowy bead are really beautiful. So I'm going to do like 3 of these beads. And actually I started with 3 seed beads, and then I'm adding 2 seed beads and then another daisy spacer. And ooh, I love how that looks. These are beautiful beads. Now these are chunky beads. If you don't like chunky beads up towards the back of your necklace, that's cool. You can do much smaller beads toward the top of your piece, which will sit at the back of your neck. And that can work just as nicely. Okay, so we've got a trio of those beads. Then I'm going to drop on 2 more seed beads. And then I think I might add one of our cubes. So let me grab one of those guys. And that one will need a daisy spacer as well. And I'm just doing that for continuity's sake anyway. So that's a lot of color, a lot of great color to get us started. And then I think I'll do another glowy bead, and I'm going to use 2 seed beads throughout, so just a little bit of separation, a little bit of pop of of white throughout the project, and then I'm going to do another glowy bead. So I'm calling these glowy beads, I don't know, because they are glowing. They're very, very glowy. And then I think what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to pop on my daisy spacer. So this is my pattern so far, and I'm just going to hold this up to my neck to see where this lays. So this is all going to be around the back of my neck. So I'm going to just, I want to get to the point where the necklace is visible, and then I'm going to introduce our fruit. So that's my plan. So I'm doing a little pattern of the glowy beads. Sorry, those beads make a lot of noise. I'm going to make a little pattern here of the glowy and the cubes. And I'll probably pull this back up in a second to see where this hits on my neck. So let me do that. And that's just visible now on the side of my neck. So it's always good when you're designing, if you're making, especially if you're making for you, to understand kind of the bend of the neck. And you'll also want to consider that you'll have some space that you'll need to account for whatever you're doing for a closure, a toggle or a hook and loop closure or a lobster, that kind of thing. So I'm happy with this. I like this. And what I want to do now is start to introduce some of this fruit. Now, I love the idea of there being like some fun little clusters of beads. So I'm going to take these guys off of their strand, and these have holes going in a direction that will allow these to string on and be very visible. And I'm going to do a single seed bead, and then I'm going to add this guy, and then I'm going to add another seed bead, and that's going to be one part of our little cluster. And then I'm going to open this up here, and I'm going to grab one of these little leaf guys, and that's going to look like that. And then another seed bead, and I'm going to do like little trios of the fruit goodness. And I think next I'm going to introduce one of these cherry clusters. Ooh, these beads all make a lot of noise. Sorry about that, guys. So I'm going to add on, and this one also has a hole that goes that direction so that you can slide this on like so. And now we've got a little trio of fun, a little cluster of fun goodness that will be right at the base or right at the top of the neck where it becomes visible. So I'm going to throw on one more seed bead, and then I'm going to grab a daisy spacer and 2 seed beads, and then another daisy spacer, and I think I'll do another one of our glowy beads, and then I need a daisy spacer and a seed bead. And now I'm going to do, let's see, I've got more of these cubes, so I think I'm going to continue with the cubes. Put a few more of these in my little jar here. I think I'm going to do another cube, so we'll add that next. And like that, and like that, and then I need another daisy spacer, and then I think, yeah, so then I'm just going to leave one seed bead here. So let me hold this up so you can see our little cluster here, and then here's what we're doing after the cluster. So next, I think we're going to do a banana. These bananas are fantastic. And these also will have some great movement because they've got a hole going that way. So you can string it in either direction, but I'm going to do this to get that one to sort of curve downwards. And then I'm going to introduce another leaf type. So I'm going to open up this pack here of leaves and put those back here. These have a hole going lengthwise like that at the top. So I'm going to put that guy on. And then I think I'm going to bring in, I like these guys. These are fun. Okay, I'm going to try and use every piece of fruit that we've got so that our fruit salad is complete. So we're going to do another. So that's another little cluster of fruit right there. Super fun. And we're going to put another seed bead on, and then a spacer, and then a couple of seed beads. And I'm doing an extra section of spacers and seed beads here to allow this to have some movement. And I think I'll add on another cube at the other side. So we've got kind of a frame of the glowy and a frame of the cubes here. And so we'll add another daisy spacer, another pair of seed beads, another daisy, and then I think, so we did, I think I might add well, yeah, let's do another section of our fruit here. So let's get more fruit involved in this story. So we've got orange, which we have not brought into the picture yet. Oh, I love these. Those are so much fun. These also have a hole on the stem, and you can just string that right on lengthwise like that. And then add another seed bead. Then I love these little leaves. So we'll get some of those into the mix. And I think because these are smaller, I'll just add one. These are fun. These are adorable. They also have a lengthwise hole along the stem of that leaf. And then let's introduce this guy. Now, I still am not certain what that fruit is, but I love it. Also, I love the way these holes are on these because it is going to do some really fun things, give you a lot of design opportunities. And I forgot my seed bead there. It's going to just allow you to do some really fun things, make these pieces really, really pop. So look at this fruit salad we've got going so far. Really fun. So then I'm going to do a daisy, 2 seed beads, and another daisy. And then I'm going to bring the glowy beads back in. Love those glowy beads. And I'm going to just do a quick fit check of how this, how long we are here. So I like that length. I think I'll do one more section of fruit. And then I've got an idea of how to create an interesting focal for us. Actually, no, I'm going to do our focal now. I think that's prudent. Okay, so I'm now ready for the focal section of this necklace. So what I've done is added my beads that are going to go close to the neck, and then I've added 3 sections or 3 clusters of the fruit. Now I want to do a focal section. And so what I'm doing is pulling out a bunch of my soft flex. So I want to pull out enough to finish the necklace as well as a little bit of extra, because we're going to do a little something different to create our focal section. So I love these cubes. These cubes are so much fun, and I want them to be, part of the fun of this necklace. Now, with all of the fruity goodness, you know, it's hard to say this necklace isn't already fabulous, but adding in some of these fun cubes is just, you know, the pièce de résistance of this design. So we're gonna make a little focal around this cube. And the way I want to do that is I've ended over here on the glowy bead, and I need to then add a daisy spacer, and then I'm going to add 2 seed beads. So I'm going to grab my 2 seed beads and let those drop down. And then what I want to do is go through my cube bead. And I've got a little collection of goodies here. I played around with this design already. And so here's what I want to do. I want to go, I'm just going to show you first what I'm going to do. I'm going to go around the bead and back through it. And I'm going to need I'm actually going to need, I'm going to need a daisy spacer there. But I'm going to go around and through the bead, and what I'm going to do is hang some beads from the soft flex when I go around it. So I'm going to add my daisy, and I'm going to make sure that this is a generous hole on this daisy spacer. Sometimes some of these are a little bit, you know, irregular, so I just want to make sure I'll be able to get through it. So I'm going to go through the little cube, and then I'm gonna pull, let's see, I'm gonna go around first, or actually I need to add beads first. So I'm gonna start with a seed bead and a leaf bead and another seed bead, the cherry, the maraschino cherry, and another seed bead. Actually, I'm gonna add a couple more leaves in there. I'm gonna use a couple of these too. So string that guy on, and then this, then the cherry bead. And so we've got like a little cluster of leaves. Let me see. I'm gonna need to do some adjusting here. So when we've added on the cube, then I'm gonna add another daisy spacer on, and I'm gonna make sure again that I find one that's got an ample hole in it. And then I'm going to add on the dangles, and they're going to go around this cube, which is kind of fun. So I'm going to start with a seed bead, and then I'm going to put on a leaf bead, and then another seed bead. And then I'm going to take a leaf, and the leaf is going to go in the direction that it will be facing the next bead. So it'll be, the leaf part will be facing, and the next bead is going to be our cherry, which is so fun. Oop, and I almost forgot a seed bead. Get that guy on there. And then another seed bead. And then the leaf is going to be facing the bead again. So this one's going on in the opposite direction. So this is what we've got so far, like that. And then I'm going to put on another seed bead, and then this fun pear. This is like the cutest bead and the prettiest color. Just love this color. Then another seed bead, and then we're going to use one of these fun purple leaves, which is super cool and adds an interesting shape. So we've got some really fun shapes here. Then adding another leaf, and that's going to be facing. So this is concave, so the leafy part is going to face our other leaf. Like that. Actually, I think I'm going to turn that one around. So we'll have that face the next bead. So just putting that going in the opposite direction. Then our plum, or whatever this is, when someone tells me what that is, I can't wait to figure out what it is. I'm sure Ava will tell me, but I did not ask her in advance of this video because I opened the box for the first time just before this. So I'm going to put on one more seed bead and then this little fun leaf, which is double-sided. And that's going to go on like so. And then we need just one more seed bead. So we've got a fun little collection of things. And what we want to do is, I'm going to let all of that slide down. I'm going to come back up around here. And I'm going to take my wire, and it's very flowy, so it's wants to do its own thing. I'm going to take that wire. I'm going to go through the daisy spacer. And somehow I've got a seed bead here that I must have put on somewhere earlier. I'm going to crack that off camera. Okay, so got that off of there. Now I'm going to go through, back through this daisy spacer. That should be on the other side of that bead. And then I'm going to pull that tight so that we have this fun and colorful little so that is what our little cluster is going to look like. Oh my gosh, so fun. So I want all of that to kind of go here. Now I've got the rest of the necklace to string, and I'm going to string it just like I did over here. Similar pattern, but I'm going to take this concept of these clusters, and I'm going to start at this end with the first cluster I did on this side. Now, the two center clusters will be the same, but this one and this one will be different. So there will be a meeting of two same clusters in the center of the necklace, which is fun. Or, you know what, we could even do a totally different one. So I'll play around with that as I go, but I'm going to start with and see how I feel. I'm going to start with this cluster here. And what I'm also doing when I'm creating these clusters is on this side, if I do the same cluster over here, I'm just flipping the order of the beads. So in this case, I ended with this orange fruit, but I will start with this fruit so that it's the starting point on the piece. So I'm going to take another seed bead. So I need two seed beads actually right here on the other side of our cube. And then I'm going to need another daisy spacer. And then I need another glowy bead. So my glowy beads are here, like that. So this is our focal section. Oh, I love that. Got a lot of movement, a lot of fun colors, just really a really cute little focal section. Okay, and then I'm just going to continue on. I need another daisy spacer and a couple of seed beads, and then I just need my next fruit cluster. Okay, so I've got my 3 beads. Now over here, the bead at the bottom was this guy. And so I'm going to start with the cherry bead. And I want the cherry bead to be facing downwards. So some of these beads have a little bit of a curve to them. So I am being mindful of how I'm stringing them on, because I'm kind of wanting them to go in different directions. So when I'm stringing them on one side, they're going to go one direction. And when I string them on the other side, I want them to go in the opposite direction. So just to create that interest and, some interesting movement. So I'm going to just check my design here. So pro tip, always be checking, especially with a necklace that's got so much going on. So lots of different beads, lots of different parts, things that are going in different directions. I just kind of do a quality check, especially with this section down here. We probably don't want to restring that if we don't have to along the way. So I'm just kind of doing a check here, making sure everything looks right. So I'm thinking that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to add a seed bead, a daisy spacer, and a couple of seed beads and another daisy spacer. Now, I made a change during one of the transitions here, and I created this pattern instead of my original pattern up top. I always like to kind of check. So I'll do a check on my own neck, especially if it's for me. But I also do a check on, I have a dress form, a mannequin in my studio that helps me out with how things are going to lay. And sometimes even when you test on your neck, you will find that because of the beads and because of how they're oriented and all of that, it may not hang and be the length that you're expecting it to be. So if you've got a piece that you put together and you tested it on your neck, you may still want to test it on something else or hang it to see how it will look. So I did all of that and it was a little bit too long. So I decided to then just transition to a glowy bead or a modern day moon glow and drop that one there. And just then put one more cube, and I had a trio of these at the very end, and I just switched it up to 2. So that's I think the best configuration that will keep the continuity of the design, but also give it some some comfort and make it the right length. So just adding those last pieces. Couple of seed beads, a spacer, and our last, that one, yeah, that one's okay. I thought I felt something stuck in there. I had designed with these before I started this project, and there could have been something stuck in there. All right, so this is looking good. So I've got a lot of excess wire here, but I'm okay with that because I'm going to trim it off to do something else. but I'm going to start first of all with coming in with a bead stopper, and I'm going to grab my cutters and trim off one side. The other side is already trimmed off, so I'm going to close up my wire over here, get that out of the way, and then I'm going to take another bead stopper and finish or close that one off like that. Let me get all these beads out of the way. Push those out of the way. Let me get this out of the way for the moment. And now look, this is what we've got. So we've got lots, oh my gosh, this is so cute. So we've got our cubes, working with our glowy beads, and we've got these clusters of fruit. Now, what's great about the clusters is these are going to move around. These things are going to create more movement and be fun. And that focal section is just really interesting and cool. So this is going to be the summer necklace of the century, but you can wear it any time of the year, anytime you need a little bit of fruit salad. So I'm going to do one last double check of my design, and how I do it is I just kind of go along and look at everything in each section to make sure everything's in place, the right number of beads are in the right place, and just doing that double check before I shut this off and add a clasp. So that's what I'm going to do next. So stay tuned. I'm going to come right back and we'll finish this one off. Okay, all I need to finish this, because I am working with soft flex, the color actually becomes part of the design and is very functional for a closure. We don't need a fancy closure because we have all this going on. So what I'm going to do is just create a simple loop of wire at one end, and then with a second loop of wire attach a little bit of an extra large lobster clasp. This is in terms of what you would traditionally see small, medium, large. This is like an extra large. And I always check to make sure it works before I use it. I've got a couple of size 2 crimp tubes, and I'm going to need my crimping pliers and my cutter. And I'm going to start at one end and take off my my bead stopper and put on my crimp. And I want to make sure that everything is like in good shape here. We don't have a lot of gaps, but we can finish doing that when we get to the other side. Now, what I like to do for creating a loop is I just go back through my crimp tube, and I go through my daisy spacer, I go through the glowy bead, and then back down the daisy spacer. Now, one thing about kind of finishing off a necklace that I like to do is always push my wire down, not for stability's sake, but for aesthetic sake. So if I were to cut this somewhere, it would create a little bit of a gap. If I go through here, this is not going to create a gap because it's got room to settle in there because we've got smaller beads below our daisy spacer there. So I'm going to get this oriented right. I'm going to pull this down till I have a loop about that size. So just, a decent size loop to attach my lobster to. Now this is nice, it's going to be nice and stable. This wire is nice and strong. It's not going to give you any trouble. So I'm going to take my crimping pliers. I'm going to come in and put that crimp in the back channel, give it a nice tight squeeze. Then I'm going to turn it and go into the first channel and make sure that that is nice and tight with one additional squeeze. And then you see I can come here, I pull the beads back, I give that a trim, and now what I want to do is get all of the beads in the right spot with gravity. So I'm doing this off camera, so that I'm hanging it. So I'm hanging it up here off to the side, and I'm making sure that everything is cinched down. So I'm pushing all the beads down, and I really need to be mindful of the fact that I've got this wire wrapped here. So I've got everything trimmed up and cinched down, and now what I want to do is kind of keep the piece curved, because you never want to like crimp something super tight in a straight line, because you can really mess up the curve of the necklace and you can squeeze some beads together and it's just not good. So I've got a lot of excess here, but I've got my, actually let me cut some of that off so we're not working with a ton there. All right, so now I've got my crimp tube on and I've got my lobster, and I'm just gonna string that on. And then I'm gonna go down through that crimp tube, just like we did on the other side. I'm gonna go through the daisy spacer, through the bead, and then down through the daisy spacer again. And then I'm gonna pull that so that there is no gap. And this should all be good because we gravity tested it. And so I wanna leave a loop so that this has got movement. I also don't want to choke this down because that can create problems with the integrity of this design as well. So I am going to come in with my crimping pliers. I'm gonna crimp and turn it the other direction, crimp that way, and I always come in just for one extra little squeeze, and then I'm going to pull my wire back and trim off that excess. And now we have our finished design, which is incredibly fun. So this is how we'll close it up. This is going to be just fine and secure. This way you're not going to have any problems with this, and you've got such a fun piece. So you have lots of movement, lots of color, lots of fun, fabulous fruit. And if you're worried about things moving around, these pieces and parts moving around, don't, because that's part of the fun of this design is these pieces will move around while you're wearing it. Most likely they will stay in place most of the time, but if you're, disco dancing or something, you've got a really fun piece, and all of that fruit is going to have fun with you. So I'm going to give you some different clips of video so you can see this piece from different angles, but I love how it came out. So much fun. Okay, there she is. The last video I'll share will be of this piece outside, so you can see it in the light outside, in natural light, and you'll see it hanging on my trusty assistant, Emma. But I thank you all for watching. I'm so grateful to Ava for this opportunity to share a fun design with all of these amazing fruit beads. I hope you enjoyed the fruit salad necklace tutorial. Thanks so much for watching.